The Where Our Minds Wander podcast may contain sensitive content and explicit language. Listener discretion is advised. Greetings, fellow wanderers, to the places our minds wander.
The house at the end of the dirt road, where disembodied voices whisper and strange sounds make the living shiver.
Where shadows lurk at the edge of the woods, just outside your back door. And mysterious lights speed beyond reason across the clear night sky.
Odd events throughout time that lead you down the rabbit hole.
I'm Wes.
And I'm Beth.
And this is Where Our Minds Wander. Hello and welcome to Where Our Minds Wander, all you fellow wanderers. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, everyone.
That's all you got? Hi, everyone.
Well, I usually say hello, everyone, and I thought I'd mix it up a little bit this week and just say hi.
I guess you should have said something to me. I wasn't expecting it.
Hey, hello. Howdy.
God, you're a dork.
I know. So this week, everybody, is actually our 4-year podcast-iversary since our very first episode of Where Our Minds Wander went out on June 10th, 2022.
It's pretty hard to believe that we've never missed a week.
I know.
How's that possible?
Because, I don't know, we've both sat across from each other at this table when there were blizzards and sicknesses, and it was something we decided at the very beginning that we were never going to miss a week, and we have not.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Even if we were sick, it didn't matter. We sucked it up. And this year's been pretty much a testament to that.
I know.
You with your blood clots, me with shingles, then kidney stones, and yet we put on a good face, sit across from each other.
They don't see our faces.
They don't. I don't want anybody seeing my face. They'll want to meet me.
Oh, is that what it is? You're trying to hold off all your adoring fans that would be like, oh, I want to meet him.
That's it.
Yeah.
I like more of the old-time radio feel. I don't care for video podcasts. It's just not my thing. Was that your stomach?
Well, kind of. It was up higher. But yeah, it was certainly audible. You'll have to silence that out later. Sorry. It was my reaction still to you saying that once people took a look at you, they'd want to meet you.
Yeah, just to see how peculiar I look.
Well, I used to listen to Prairie Home Companion when I was a kid. My parents used to play it all the time. And then when I saw what Garrison Keillor looked like for the first time, that was not what I envisioned in my head. And it didn't ruin it for me, but it definitely changed how I listened to it, because I used to picture him differently.
Yeah, that happens to me an awful lot. It's like, that face doesn't go with that voice, except for Art Bell.
This is true. His face definitely matched his voice.
Well, we both have pretty good stories for you all tonight.
Yes, we do.
What do you got going on?
Well, I have a haunted hotel. And
I kind of knew that because I kind of read ahead.
Well, all you read was the first sentence. I love a haunted hotel.
That's it.
Well, I do. I love a haunted hotel. And I don't know why, but the idea of staying overnight at a historic hotel and then chancing a paranormal experience is just, it's exciting to me. And I think it's because I know that we'll only be there for 1 or 2 nights. And so I don't mind losing some sleep over a paranormal experience. So tonight, I thought I'd start off with a very haunted hotel in New Hope, Pennsylvania, called the Logan Inn. From the front, the white 2-story Oh, it's 3 stories. Look at that picture.
Well, I would really call it, 2 stories.
It's 3 stories.
Well,
Look, 1, 2, 3. 3 rows of windows.
Well, yeah, but to me, this is a 2-story building. If it was 3 stories, it should have a third part to the top. It's really 2 stories, but the top story is just a little bit bigger, taller.
The top 2 stories, because it's 3. Anyway, we'll put a picture up and you can all debate over which one of us is right.
I'm saying 2-story.
Okay, well, the white inn with the dark green shutters and roof looks like your classical colonial era building. And in all honesty, when I look at it, it doesn't look haunted at all. It actually looks like an inviting and welcoming place to eat some amazing food, have a few cocktails, and spend the night in a 5-star room. The inn, which was actually built in 1727, has had some additions added on, but in a way that combines the aesthetic of the colonial era with the mid-century modern aesthetic of the 1950s. So, inside, picture stone walls, exposed beam ceilings, and chair rail and wainscoting on the walls, with mid-century modern-style leather chairs, Art Deco-style light fixtures, and funky black and white tiled floors. It may sound like a strange pairing, the 1700s with the 1950s, but it actually kind of works really well. At least, to me, I like the way it looks.
See, now, I didn't read that far ahead. Now that you mention it, it looks like a 3-story old building that has a modern bottom to it now.
It's an old top with a modern bottom?
That it is.
Okay. It's hard to think that this inn, with all of its modern-day luxuries, including a cigar lounge, a whiskey lounge, a movie theater, and sleek, classic furniture, could be haunted. But when you stay in the original part of the inn, the part that is purposefully decorated to reflect its history, it's a little more apparent. Especially if you are brave enough to stay in room 6. In fact, here's the description of room 6 from the Logan Inn website. It says, quote, "One of the inn's most storied stays, Emily's room blends history with a sense of intrigue that's become part of Logan Inn's identity. Set within the original building, the space has been carefully refreshed while still holding on to the character and quiet mystery that continues to draw guests in." End quote. But before we get to the hauntings, as always, I want to start with the history.
Well, of course, you need to know the history
to understand.
To build up to the hauntings.
Right. Initially, it was the Lenni Lenape people who inhabited the land where New Hope sits today. When King Charles II of England awarded what is now Pennsylvania to William Penn in the 17th century, the Lenni Lenape still continued to live there. But as New York City and Philadelphia began to grow, the area along the west bank of the Delaware River became a popular spot to stop along the Old York Road, since it was halfway between the two young cities. By 1722, there was quite the settlement along the west bank, and an enterprising businessman, John Wells, set up a ferry to shuttle travelers across the river. He named the blossoming settlement Wells Ferry. Soon, mills followed, and of course, taverns and all the things a new town needs. Not about to let a good opportunity pass him by, John Wells established the Ferry Tavern in 1727. It was 12,000 square feet and offered 16 rooms for both weary travelers and vacationers seeking some country air outside of Philadelphia. In 1776, George Washington spent the night in Wells Ferry before leading his troops across the Delaware to fight the Hessians. Knowing he would be followed, Washington ordered that the ferry be burned. This turned out to be a mixed blessing, since the British Army came into town and decided that since the ferry didn't arrive when they rang for it, that the townsfolk had to be Continental Army sympathizers. So they basically shelled almost every building out of spite. Since it was winter when Washington made his crossing, any soldiers killed in battle were temporarily kept in the Logan Inn's basement, which at that time was still called the Ferry Tavern, because the ground was too frozen to bury them right away. In 1790, a massive fire swept through town, destroying several of the mills owned by Benjamin Perry. He quickly rebuilt them and named them the New Hope Mills, and the town of Wells Ferry now became known as New Hope. According to several websites referencing the Logan Inn, in 1828, the Ferry Tavern was renamed the Logan Inn in honor of Chief Logan of the Lenni Lenape. But here's where history and folklore get a little confusing. Chief Logan, the famous speaker and tribal leader, was a powerful warrior and a fearless leader. He firmly believed in living peacefully with the white settlers and was known for helping them as much as he could. But after the Yellow Creek Massacre of Ohio, where several of his family members were killed, Chief Logan retaliated by leading a series of attacks on white settlers. But here's the thing. Chief Logan was not Lenni Lenape. He was Mingo. Apparently, there was a Lenni Lenape chief named Wingo Hawking, who used to come into New Hope and trade with William Penn's secretary, who was named James Logan. He allegedly liked the name so much that he took it as his own, from then on going by Chief Logan. So, in all honesty, I'm not sure which Chief Logan the Logan Inn is supposed to be named after. And I'm not trying to second-guess the legitimacy of what several of the websites that I looked at are claiming. I just wanted to share what I found, that there was a little confusion there.
Yeah, there's some discrepancy.
Yes. But anyway, New Hope was incorporated in 1837 by Benjamin Perry, and he also helped build a bridge that connected the town to New Jersey. The North Pennsylvania Railroad arrived in 1881, and passenger trains ran through New Hope until 1952. Over the years, New Hope was known as a theater town as well, thanks to the Bucks County Playhouse, bringing in performers like Grace Kelly, B. Arthur, Liza Minnelli, and Robert Redford.
Wow, they had some big people there.
They did. In 1969, business partners Carl Lutz and Arthur Sanders bought the Logan Inn. Carl's mother, Emily, moved into the historic hotel and lived there until her death. Her room was room 6. In 1983, network anchorwoman Jessica Savage and her boyfriend Martin Fishbein came to New Hope to have dinner at Odette's restaurant. Savage was insanely popular. She was the first woman to anchor an evening news program solo, and she was the weekend anchor for NBC Nightly News. Fishbean was vice president of the New York Post, so they were a power couple of that time period. It was raining that night, and Savage sat in the back seat with her dog Chewy while Fishbean drove. Visibility was so bad that Fishbean drove out the wrong exit from the restaurant and turned onto a towpath of the old canal system. He turned so sharply at the last moment that the car fell 15 feet down to the canal, where it landed upside down in 4 feet of water. The doors were instantly sealed shut by mud, trapping Savage and Fishbean inside. Now, at the time, it was reported that neither of them had any drugs in their system, and they each only had a tiny amount of alcohol in their systems from dinner. I remember this as a kid. I remember this happening.
Well, I can see them being city dwellers, going to this place, having this downpour, and they just kind of, didn't navigate
Right.
too well.
Right. I remember it being all over the news because she was someone that we used to watch. I remember watching her as a news anchor.
I vaguely remember her.
Yeah. Savage's family sued the restaurant, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and the New York Post. They received an $8 million settlement. They gave some of the settlement towards journalism scholarships for female journalism students at Ithaca College, where Savage had gotten her degree.
You know what I don't understand? How were they able to sue this restaurant? How did they have any liability for this accident?
Because they said that it wasn't labeled very clearly, that that was not the way to exit the restaurant.
Wow.
And they sued the New York Post because they were the ones that had signed the rental agreement for the car or some such thing.
It sounds like their money talked for them.
Perhaps, yes. But at least they gave a good chunk of it away to scholarships.
Well, that is a good thing.
Yeah. So, in 1987, during a renovation project, there were several murals uncovered in the bar, and they were restored by local artists. In 2020, the Logan Inn went under extensive renovation. It reopened in 2021 with 22 additional new rooms. The current owners, Frank and Jeannie Cretella of Landmark Hospitality, had spent several summers in New Hope, and they were excited to take on a historic property. And I'm sure they knew when they bought it that it was haunted. Or at least they allude to it in that description of Room 6 that I read to you earlier about Emily's room. So, in case you want a little refresher, it says that it's one of the inn's most storied stays, and it has a sense of intrigue and a quiet mystery. Mystery and intrigue is a great way to say it's haunted as heck without actually saying it. According to U.S. Ghost Adventures, Gwen Davis was the innkeeper from 1987 to 2001, and she shared quite a few things that guests have experienced in that room. A lot of it is attributed to the ghost of Emily Lutz. If you recall, she was the mother of the owner Carl Lutz back in the late 1960s and early 1970s. According to Davis, items in Room 6 would frequently move around, like items that guests left on the dresser. They'd put things down, leave the room, come back, and their items would not be where they left them. Another issue is the door to room 6, which is known to both open and shut on its own. Imagine lying in bed in the dark and hearing your hotel room door, which you know you locked, suddenly opening.
Well, we've had that happen before.
Yes.
And we have it on digital voice recorder. We have a few EVPs of it.
Yeah, and the door didn't actually open. It just sounded like it opened and shut, even though it didn't.
Yeah, it's quite creepy.
Emily also makes her presence known by gently touching people on the cheek. So again, imagine lying in your hotel room bed with your eyes closed and feeling as if someone is just gently touching your face. Guests have also reported having their pillow tugged out from under their head. So imagine that too. You're sound asleep, and suddenly you wake up because something has tried to tug the pillow out from under your face.
That's just rude. I don't mind a little bit of caressing on the face, but come on, not the pillow.
Leave my pillow alone.
It could be worse. Pull it out, put it over your face.
This is true. According to hauntedhovel.com, it was actually worse than that for one businessman who stayed in room 6. He woke up in the middle of the night because he felt a strange pressure on his chest, as if someone was leaning on him. When he looked around, he saw a white, misty shape floating in the room. He was so freaked out that he packed his stuff up and checked out right then and there. But it isn't just Emily who is believed to haunt room 6. Apparently, according to hauntedplaces.com, female guests have gone into the bathroom and been startled by the translucent figure of a man standing behind them. When they turn around, there isn't anybody there, of course. Interestingly, it seems to only happen to female guests.
Perhaps it's one of the soldiers
could be.
That was there.
It could be. But there's also 3 more apparitions that have been known to appear in room 6. A woman and 2 young daughters. Allegedly, when one rather brave guest asked them who they were, the mother actually replied, audibly, "We're just travelers. We were passing through." Sometimes the mother and her children appear more translucent, while at other times they seem more solid. Another version of this incident from the U.S. Ghost Adventures site is that it was a man and a woman with a single child. When the guest asked who they were, it was the father who replied, "We're just travelers. We were passing through."
Either way,
Mm-hmm.
You're talking to ghost.
And you're hearing them answer you. So they appear more solid at these points.
That would be awesome.
I know. Although no one really knows who these parents and children could be, I guess one of the little girls is also spotted sometimes playing in the parking lot behind the inn. And they also sometimes appear as reflections in the bathroom mirror, just like the single translucent man. Guests in room 6 have reported hearing children crying, and some speculate that it might be one or both of the girls. In my opinion, that mirror seems like it's got some stuff going on, like it might be some sort of portal or something. But if you make a reservation at the Logan Inn and you cannot book room 6, don't worry, because there are plenty of other ghosts all throughout the hotel. The basement is a particular hotspot. Apparently, staff have witnessed a man dressed in a Revolutionary War uniform pacing back and forth. Some sites even say he's marching back and forth. But before they can speak to him or approach him, he literally walks through the basement wall and disappears. But if you can't find your way into the basement of the inn, as I'm sure the staff there don't want guests wandering around in the basement, there are plenty of reports of people seeing groups of Revolutionary War era soldiers patrolling the grounds of the inn. You know, I've always loved the stories where people think that they're interacting with like reenactors, and then they find out later that nobody was actually there doing any reenacting.
Yeah, it's always one of my favorite things also.
Yeah. Unexplained whispers are sometimes heard in the hotel lobby. And then there's this weird little thing. Apparently, staff complain about several of the light bulbs in the hallway constantly blowing. But when they've gone to check it out, they discover that the bulbs aren't blown at all. They've just been unscrewed in their sockets. And lastly, the spirit of local artist Joseph Pickett was allegedly encountered 20 years after his death. Pickett lived in New Hope and had his artist studio on Mechanic Street before his death in 1918. Throughout his life, he repaired the canals and he worked as a boat builder before becoming a carny and then a shopkeeper. He didn't take up painting until his later years, and most of his work depicted street scenes of New Hope itself. His artwork wasn't really appreciated until much later, in the 1930s. Well, in the 1940s, artist Betty Hoffman was staying at the Logan Inn when she had a weird experience. She saw a man sitting on her bed, dressed in dark trousers and a dark shirt. He had gray hair and a gray mustache. He didn't speak to her, and the account doesn't say if she looked away and then looked back and he was gone, or if she left the room, or how it ended. But she was certain that she'd interacted with Joseph Pickett. Now, the Logan Inn does not offer any sort of ghost tours or paranormal investigations on site, although there is a local walking ghost tour that shares some of the inn's ghost stories every Saturday night. The Logan Inn is embracing its haunted reputation in at least one way, though. At the end of July, this coming July, they are hosting a night with psychic medium Ed Nunzio. But if that's not your thing, there's always the Father's Day dinner this year, with the enticing name Father's Day High West Bourbon and Tomahawk Dinner.
That sounds pretty good.
I know. If we went there, I'd definitely want to spend the night in room 6.
That and bribe some of the staff to go down into the cellar.
Yes. Go down in the basement.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Well, Beth and I'll return after this Who'da Thunk It.
Hey, did you know? Recently, scientists studying Otzi the Iceman, the 5,000-year-old mummy discovered in the Alps in 1991, discovered several strains of yeast preserved in his gut. So, of course, they decided to use it to make some bread. A very good sourdough bread, in fact. Their next endeavor is to turn the yeast into beer. But this yeast isn't just proving to be a good starter for bread and booze. It's actually eating the chemicals applied to Otzi to preserve his remains, leading scientists to believe that it could be used to treat modern-day industrial accident victims. Who'd have thunk it?
All right, Beth and I are back from the break, and tonight I'm going to be taking all you fellow wanderers to Dudleytown, Connecticut. Now, I want to make something perfectly clear right off the bat. The ghost town is completely closed off to the public, and if you trespass there, you will be fined. Now, this is all because so many people were going there at one point, partially thanks to the film The Blair Witch Project, which ironically had nothing to do with Dudleytown. The vandalism done to the site was so bad that a group of philanthropists set it up as a private land trust within the dark entry forest to keep people out.
Well, can I just say that the idea of a ghost town inside a place called the Dark Entry Forest sounds very intriguing. So I'm assuming that you can go there if you get permission, right?
Well, yes, but it's closely monitored 24/7. So even with permission, there are people watching what you're doing at all times.
Gotcha. So it's an abandoned ghost town.
Yes, it's exactly that. It's in the northwestern part of Cornwall, Connecticut, and it has such a weird history of alleged curses and demonic possessions and ghosts that it has also been called one of the most cursed places in the country. So tonight, for my half of the episode, I thought I'd take a look at why Dudleytown has such a wicked reputation, especially since all that's left of it is a few stone foundations and dugout cellars. Even the former roads through the town have turned into nothing more than overgrown paths. And yet, it's known as a place where an unbelievable amount of bad things happened, including murders, suicides, and madness. So, I'm going to start off with the history that seems to be retold over and over in the few brief articles I could find about Dudleytown. In 1738, a farmer named Thomas Griffiths decided to stake his claim along the hilly plateau between the Bald and Coldfoot Mountains. This area was Mohawk land, but once he decided to make a go of it, several other families joined in with him. Because of the mountains, the settlers claimed that it always grew dark before noon. Plus, there was an abundance of owls in the area, so they started calling their settlement Owlsbury. Farming there wasn't easy or very good, but the Dudley brothers probably weren't aware of that when they came to Owlsbury in 1747. Their family had had some trouble for a very long time back in England. Allegedly, Edmund Dudley had been beheaded by King Henry VII. Edmund's son, John, the Duke of Northumberland, thought that if his son, Lord Guilford, married Lady Jane Grey, that they could successfully overthrow King Edward VI. But that didn't go so well, and all three of them, Lady Jane and John and Guilford Dudley, all lost their heads. Lord Guilford's brother came back to England after being at war with France with the plague. He allegedly infected a huge number of troops who all died. Despite all of this, the Dudley family line did continue, and in 1747, Dudley family descendants, brother Abel and Barzulia, arrived in Owlsbury. They were followed shortly after by three more Dudleys, Gideon, Martin, and Obiah. Now, it's unclear if all five of them were siblings or cousins. But regardless of their family ties, the family curse was said to have followed all of them. According to the New England Historical Society, the Dudley men cleared the land and started farming flax, wheat, and corn. The settlement known as Aylesbury quickly became known as Dudleytown. But just to be clear, Dudleytown wasn't an actual town. Despite the discovery of iron ore, there was never a single shop, school, or church in Dudleytown. And because there was never a church, there was never a cemetery either. Anyone living in Dudleytown would have to travel to Cornwall for all of their provisions, their formal education, and their church services. Now, all seemed well until 1792, when the curse came back to haunt them. According to legend, Abel Dudley's neighbor, Gershon Hollister, was found murdered inside the house of another neighbor named William Tanner. Well, the truth is that Gershon Hollister was helping to build Tanner's barn, and he fell. As he fell, one of the beams came down on top of him and crushed him to death. Now, after the death of their friend, William Tanner lived to the ripe old age of 104, but for decades, he was known for telling creepy stories all around Dudleytown about strange creatures, both wild animals and demons, that came out of the woods at night. Abel Dudley was the only one of the 5 original Dudleys who stayed in Dudleytown. He lived to the age of 90, but his story is a very sad one. He ended up in such debt that he lost everything and became a ward of the town. The town then sold off all of his property to try and make some of the money back, which they kept. He passed away completely senile in 1799. 40 years earlier, in 1759, a man named Nathaniel Carter moved into Abel's former house. He and his family only lived there for 4 years before pulling up stakes and moving to a log cabin in Binghamton, New York. Now, for some reason, the Dudley curse was said to have followed the Carter family as well. In 1764, while Nathaniel was away from home, his cabin was attacked by hostile Indians. His family was killed and his cabin was burned to the ground. When he returned to find his family murdered, he was scalped by the natives. Well, let me put that part of the curse to rest. During the 1770s, Binghamton was part of the Scorched Earth campaign, when U.S. military troops literally burned out multiple Iroquois settlements. But as far as I can tell, there were never any retaliations by the Iroquois against the white settlers in the Binghamton area. In fact, records show that all of Carter's children lived well into adulthood, and one even became a state Supreme Court justice.
So, there's no truth to that.
Nope, none whatsoever. After the American Revolution, the curse allegedly continued when General Herman Swift came home to Dudleytown. He was married to his 3rd wife by this time, but not for long after returning home, when she was struck by lightning on their front porch. General Swift went insane with grief and died soon after. According to the New England Historical Society, Herman Swift never resided in Dudleytown. He lived to the age 81.
So then she was never struck by lightning on the front porch because they never lived there.
This is true also.
Okay.
Next, we move on to Horace Greeley, presidential nominee in 1872. The Dudleytown Curse narrative says that Greeley's wife, Mary Cheney Greeley, grew up in Dudleytown. So, a week before the presidential nomination vote, Mary decided to go home to Dudleytown, where she hanged herself. Well, not only was Mary not born in Dudleytown, she never lived there at all, and she died of lung cancer in New York City.
Wow.
So we're debunking quite a bit at this point.
Yeah, so I wonder where all this false stuff is coming from.
Well, you'll see.
Okay.
In 1901, John Patrick Brophy's wife died of consumption. Then, according to the curse legend, not long after the funeral, his 2 children vanished into the woods and were never found. Not long after that, their family home caught on fire and burned to the ground. Brophy himself also vanished into the forest. Now, to be fair, out of all the stories, this was the only one I couldn't debunk, and that's simply because I couldn't find anything about it, saying that it was true or untrue.
Gotcha.
But at this point, I think it's safe to assume that it's not true either.
Right.
Lastly, we have Dr. William Clark and his wife, Harriet. According to David E. Phelps in his book, Legendary Connecticut, which was published in 1984, Dr. Clark purchased 1,000 acres on Bald Mountain, some of which was part of Dudleytown. Dr. Clark was a leading cancer doctor out of New York City, and he also taught at Columbia. Phelps writes that during the summer of 1918, Dr. Clark was called away on business for 36 hours. When he returned to Dudleytown, he found the front door to his house slightly open and his wife missing. As he entered the house, Dr. Clark heard a horrible sound, which was described as uncontrolled maniacal laughter. Turns out, in the 36 hours that he had been gone, his wife had gone insane. When he tried to comfort her, Harriet insisted that strange creatures had come out of the woods and attacked her. Harriet committed suicide shortly after. Dr. Clark kept the house in Dudleytown and remarried. He was instrumental in setting up the Dark Entry Forest Preserve. So, although the truth to the story is sad, it's nowhere near as paranormal as the curse legend claims. Harriet Clark had been suffering from chronic pain for years. Dr. Clark bought the property in Dudleytown because he wanted a calming place for Harriet to spend the summers, and he loved the countryside. They summered there for 18 years. Now, as far as I can tell, Harriet did eventually take her own life. But here's the kicker. She didn't take it in Dudleytown. She actually died in New York City. Almost all the Dudleytown curse was debunked due to the tireless research of one man back in 1999, Reverend Gary P. Dudley. Yes, in case you're wondering, he is a direct descendant of the original Dudley men. He not only proved through newspaper clippings and town records that most of what people had been saying about Dudleytown isn't true, he also provided that his Dudley ancestors who came to Connecticut aren't even related to Edmund Dudley, the British nobleman who supposedly kickstarted the curse back in the 1700s.
Huh. So he researched his own family and then discovered that they're not even related to the beheaded Dudleys.
It's all phooey.
Huh.
Reverend Dudley came to the conclusion that most of the residents abandoned Dudleytown because it just wasn't sustainable as a farming town or mining town. So, how did all this nonsense about a Dudleytown curse even start? Well, Reverend Dudley traced the original curse story to a book that came out in 1926. It was called History of Cornwall, and it was written by Edward C. Starr. For whatever reason, according to the New England Historical Society, Starr included 2 full pages of completely fabricated stories about Dudleytown. And then in the 1970s, Ed and Lorraine Warren came to Dudleytown in order to film a Halloween special.
Your 2 favorite people.
We'll get into that. The Warrens were incredibly famous by this time. And when Ed Warren stated on national television that the town was, quote, controlled by something terrifying, there was no stopping the influx of tourists. And with them came the vandalism and the countless retellings of a false narrative. When the Blair Witch Project hit theaters in 1999, the interest in Dudleytown skyrocketed once again. Now, the Blair Witch movie has absolutely nothing to do with Dudleytown, but paranormal enthusiasts, rowdy teenagers, and hordes of tourists couldn't resist the idea of an abandoned ghost town with an alleged curse. Keep in mind, the movie came out just 1 year after Google existed. So it's not like people had the ability to research these stories as quickly or as thoroughly as we do now. So legends and false history continued and continued. As far back as 1989, residents of Bald Mountain, who were being interviewed for the New York Times, said that the biggest curse in Dudleytown were the tourists, biker gangs, and witchcraft societies who kept coming there. One resident said, quote, "They come roaring up, expecting there to be toilet facilities and concession stands. What they don't realize is that there's absolutely nothing to be seen." In 1989, there was just a single resident left in Dudleytown, a man named Walter Killam. Walter had bought 40 acres back in 1938, and by 1989, he was known as the Hermit of Dudleytown. He said in the New York Times article that over the years, he had tour buses invade his private property, and groups of people just stand there for hours at a time, trying to feel any vibrations. Most of the time, he'd have to help motorists get their cars unstuck out of the mud. He said that every time someone would ask him about any ghost in Dudleytown, he'd always tell them, quote, "If you believe in ghosts, I guess you'll find one. If you don't, then there aren't going to be any."
Very smart man.
Very smart.
Wise words.
In 2011, Cornwall police arrested 8 filmmakers who had trespassed onto Dudleytown. So here we are in 2026, and the Dudleytown Curse is still alive and well on the internet, despite nobody being allowed to access the land. The Dark Entry Forest Trustee Board is pretty serious about that.
I would guess so if they're finding and arresting people. It makes sense, though. I mean, if for decades people have been retelling these completely false stories about what happened there, I would be pretty peeved too, and I'd want people to stop coming.
Well, yeah, exactly. Now, I can see this guy back in the 1920s who wrote all these fabricated stories about this place, seeing this place and thinking to himself that, wow, this is the perfect place that I could make up a story about because it's pretty creepy. And who would know?
Right, because there was nobody living there, or not many people living there.
Right.
Right.
So I think he thought he would get away with it and probably never intended to get caught.
Right.
100
years later.
Yeah, now we know.
We're looking at his stories.
But, like I had said before, a lot of this after was perpetuated by my favorite people, the fakes in the paranormal community, Ed and Lorraine Warren, who really had no abilities whatsoever. And, they made over $1.2 billion from their franchise, building on false sensational paranormal cases. They were great storytellers, but at what cost? They were frauds of the ghost movement. To me, they just put nothing but a big black eye for those of us who know and have researched them on the community. They were total jokes. And I know there's a lot of people that aren't going to like that, but do your research. They were not good people, total frauds, and they swindled a lot of people, and they hurt a lot of people along the way.
Well, here's what I find, I don't know if confusing is the right word, but you had talked about how Dudleytown apparently had this curse, right, where people would go mad and they would murder each other or commit suicide, or, there were demonic animals in the woods. But then the hermit of Dudleyville was talking about how people would constantly ask him if it was haunted. But there wasn't anything in the curse about hauntings.
No.
So I mean, we'd have to find footage of that Halloween special to know, was that something that the Warrens put into people's heads, that it was haunted? Like, why would people start wondering if it was haunted and going there because it was haunted?
Well, I can see your point, but here's another point. We've seen plenty of places that they have been and made claims when families have come forward and said, no, this didn't happen. We were bullied by the Warrens. They pretty much ran their own narrative and spun what they wanted to spin.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I'm saying, is that it was always a curse, and then from the 70s onward, it was people looking for hauntings. Where did that idea come from? I'm wondering if it was something they said in that special. We'd have to watch it to know, or find transcripts of it or something.
Well, we can go back and do that.
I know, that'll be my next homework assignment.
I'm all for hyping up the paranormal and people getting interested in it and going out there and finding answers for themselves. But let's be ethical about it. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Let's do it in a manner that we tell people's real stories.
Right.
We don't embellish them.
Right.
We tell them exactly the way they are, which they're told to us. And we truly try to get to the bottom of it, not sensationalize any of it.
Right.
I love the ghost hunting shows. I've always said that, and I've always watched them. But just listener stories are creepy enough. You don't have to add to them. You don't have to have the scary music and the jump scares.
Right.
It's kind of...
Right.
If you want people to believe you, then be, as professional about it as you can.
Right. Right. I mean, the history of Dudleytown is interesting enough. You don't have to create all of these other things.
Yeah, it was a cool place.
Right.
Unfortunately, you couldn't do much with it.
Right. And there were a lot of prominent doctors and people that chose to live there. And yeah.
You buy a piece of land, next thing you know, it's not worth shit. Can't really do much with it.
Right.
Oh, well. Well, there you have it.
The Logan Inn and Dudleytown.
Yeah.
As always, if you would like to know more about our topics, you can always check our sources in our show notes.
That you can. Join us next week for an all-new episode of Where Our Minds Wander.
See you soon. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to traveling with you again to the places where our minds wander.
If you like what you heard, please take a moment and provide us with a 5-star rating and a comment on your favorite listening platform. It really helps us move up the list and become more visible on the podcast charts so new people can find us.
And thank you all for your continued support.
See you next week for an all-new episode.